Hello everybody, Chris Adams from the Valley Local here, and we're not starting yet. We're going to start at 8:30, but I understand there is a little bit of a lag, so I wanted to be sure and start a little bit early to let people catch up. As luck would always have it, there's a little bit of technical difficulty. I meant to start at 8:25, and so I missed that by a little bit. So enjoy the scene here. We're sitting in Old Saybrook, and this freight is paused at the signal, and we'll be ready to depart on the green signal here pretty soon. Hopefully you'll hear some of the 40s music in the background. Hey, Brad. So it is 8:30, but I understand that there is a little bit of a lag, so we're going to wait just a little bit, but in the meantime, enjoy the music and enjoy the fact that it looks like we just got a green signal. Hey David, you're just in time. This freight is about ready to depart on a green signal. Sitting here in Old Saybrook right now. And for those of you that have just joined us, it's a little bit of a bonus because we're going to wait until 8:35 because there's a little bit of a lag time. So in the meantime, why don't you enjoy the fact that we just got a green signal on this freight. And as is typical on the shoreline, don't worry folks, you haven't missed anything. We're just here in Old Saybrook and watching a couple trains before we get started. Oh, here comes a westbound. Oh, and here comes an eastbound. And as is always the case on the shoreline, you've got some hotshot freights. We've got a hotshot westbound. Got to stop at the signal. Unfortunately, we overran just slightly. So we'll calm down a little bit of the ambient noise here so you can hear the music. All right, so you'll have to bear with me a little bit tonight. Again, Chris Adams, Valley Local. Thank you so much to Brad and Pat and the guys at the Iron City N-Scale group for allowing me to be the showcase tonight. Hopefully the lag has gone by and now we get a chance to do the tour and start it properly. So I don't know the semaphore doesn't work yet, but it will. I will probably not be able to respond to questions. I'll do my best as we go along. But for now, I'm going to take the phone out of its mount and let you see my ugly mug for a minute. Hey, everybody. So just bear with me for a minute while we get this off. And like I said, we'll do the tour properly so that you see how things look whenever people first come in. So this is the entrance to the basement. Welcome to the Valley Local. Really appreciate everybody that has tuned in, and really appreciate the support. I'll probably mention it, shameless plug, a few times along the way, but I have my own Valley Local group, which a lot of you guys may already be familiar with. You can search for it on Facebook. I also have a website and a blog. But enough for the plugs. Let's go down into the layout room proper. One of the things that I try to do is create as immersive an experience as possible for the operators, including old-time radio, playing period music, including calendars of the era. My era is 47 to 49. So I try and create as much of an ambiance as possible. It's also functional. This is where we have the bulletin orders for our operators. This is the operator's desk. Controls all the turnouts in Old Saybrook and operating paperwork. But you probably didn't come here to see all that. You probably came to see the layout itself. So here we are in Old Saybrook. This is where we started out. And for those that are familiar with the area, it might be a little disorienting because you're actually looking south. So east is to the left and west is to the right. Old Saybrook is almost to the mile halfway between New York and Boston on the New Haven Railroad's shoreline. Had 71 trains a day during its heyday in the late 40s, which is when I model. And pretty much everything that was coming between Boston and New York and vice versa came through Old Saybrook. The neat thing about this way I've got this set up is because I only have the one town, I can actually model all, well, not 71 trains, but during the course of an operating session, we can model and run about 30 some odd trains on a 4-to-1 fast clock to the actual prototype schedule. So it gets pretty harrowing for the operators just trying to move that volume of traffic back and forth. And it also gives the local, the engine of which is sitting here at the tower, gives the local something to stay out of the way of whenever it's trying to switch on both sides of the main. Another thing that you'll see as we go through the layout, I'll try and remember to give you some reference photos from time to time. I do try to model things as accurately as possible for the era. So this is the Old Saybrook Station area looking west from the Route 1 overpass. And this is the scene as modeled. And then you've got the station and tower. You've got the Y track going up the east leg of the Y there on the right-hand side, the tower and the water tank. And seen as modeled. So, again, I really appreciate the comments and the compliments. Thank you, Justin. Like I said, I won't be able to, probably won't be able to answer or respond to many of the comments and everything, but I promise I will check all of these whenever the broadcast is over. Hopefully I won't take up too much of your time. I did a tour thinking that I was only going to be about 20 minutes. Ended up being over 45 minutes. So I want to be respectful of everybody's time. So what we'll do is we'll basically start at the north end and work our way down, following a local as we go. And hopefully things will work out as planned. So we're going to jump from the town of Old Saybrook, which is down on the south end of the line, down along the shoreline in Old Saybrook, Connecticut, like I said, between New York and Boston. And we're going to head up the line, going to take a huge shortcut, pretend we're in a plane, and we're going to zip over here to the north end of the Valley Line, where we may see a local come in, and this would be the Valley Local. So this is the north end of the line, Wethersfield. You can see the Hartford skyline in the background. That is the Blue Onion Dome of the Colt factory, water tank. Travelers Tower is just to the right of that tree there. The bridge in the foreground is the Hartford, what is today the Route 15 overpass. But back in the late 40s was the Hartford bypass. It was a way of getting workers from the west side of the Connecticut River over to the east side of the Connecticut River, because Pratt & Whitney Aircraft Plant is in East Hartford on the other side of the river. And so to get workers from one side to the other, they built this bypass during World War II. So what we're going to do is we're going to just try and see if we can get the local to show up. And this is this is a little more difficult than I expected, to try and do all this at the same time. But we'll do our best here. All right. Yeah, I really wish could get the gimbal going, but unfortunately, that would be too many hands required. So what we'll do is we'll pause here at the north end of Wethersfield, just north of the Jordan Street grade crossing. And what we're going to do is try our best. I really need a third hand. Try our best to do this. I may just ditch trying to run the local and doing this at the same time. But what we have here is we have the north end of Wethersfield. That's the Ballantyne's beer distributor there in the background there. And one of the first operations, even on the prototype, is that they would put a beer car on the pilot coming south from Hartford in order to spot it at the beginning of the day at the siding, and then would pick up the empty on the way back. So this is Jordan Lane. This is looking west. You've got Wethersfield Lumber there on the left. And before I go any further, I just want to dedicate this showcase to a very dear friend who passed away a week ago today. His name was John Wallace. And those of you that follow the Valley Local know that he, more than any single person, is responsible for my modeling the Valley Line and the Valley Local. This is his house. This is a picture here that he had taken when he was in high school. He graduated in 1948. That's the summer of 48, so right after he graduated. This is his house on Fernwood Street. On the prototype, he was about 3 houses down from the Valley Line, and would, all through the war years and through high school, would jump on the train and fire it all the way down to Middletown. And the cool thing was that he was a budding photographer as well. So he took his camera with him, and he took all sorts of photos along the line that provided the lion's share of the reference photos that I used to model this line. And one of my regrets is that he's not here with us now to see this showcase. But one of my highlights is that he did get to operate on here a few times and operated the Valley Local exactly how he described it in a few articles that he did in the New Haven Railroad Historical Society's Shoreliner. Another person I want to dedicate this to is Dave Messer. Unfortunately, he passed away about 6 years ago, and he built this model. Some of you may know Dave. And another highlight is that Dave and John were actually at Wethersfield High School at the same time. They were about 3 years apart, so they never crossed paths until they did so in my basement one day, reminiscing over Wethersfield and common people that they knew. And so, you know, that's one of the greatest things about this hobby is the people that it brings together and the people that you meet. And, you know, unfortunately, in time, the people you lose, but their memories stay alive. And that's a lot of what this layout is about, is keeping those memories alive as well as the memory of the Valley Line. So without getting too maudlin, we'll continue our tour. And again, this is Fernwood Street. You got Wethersfield Lumber. And then a little further south, you come to Church Street in Wethersfield, and the Wethersfield Station, which is still there today. The Grey Rock Bottling Plant, which was the Grey Rock Bottling Plant during my era, but it had been National Machine back during the 20s, which is why there's the faded sign. Most of the buildings here in Wethersfield were built by Dave Messer because he grew up in Wethersfield and really wanted to build as many of them as possible. So I built Ballantyne's in the little Cape Cod house that you saw before, and Wethersfield Lumber, but everything else in this scene was pretty much built by Dave Messer. So what we're going to do is, I don't think we're going to bother with the train, if that's okay, guys, because there's just way too much to try and handle. And it would have been a nice idea, and I would have done it if I'd had a cameraman, Tom Jacobs. Anyway, long story. Hope you're enjoying your dinner. I know you got a lot of schmoozing to do. So here we are. We've got the Wethersfield Station. Again, a prototype photo of the Grey Rock building. And as we move a little further south, you get a prototype photo of Valley Coal. This was taken by John Wallace, the only photo that I know of from track level of Valley Coal. And there is the model of it. I did build the conveyor. Dave Messer built the rest. But this is Valley Cole. This is Wells Street in the south end of Wethersfield. And you've got the, let's see if we can get in there. You've got the way station there for Valley Cole. And the model, the prototype photo here. Moving further south, we come to the Rocky Hill and Wethersfield line, which is delineated by Goff Brook, which is this waterway here, and the bridge over Goff Brook. You can still see the scene today looking south from I-91, which crosses right about here today. That house is still there, was the subject of one of my first modeling articles for Model Railroad Hobbyists, the house at Goff Brook, built from a City Classics kit, and just so happened to be very close to the prototype. And as we turn here, you get an overview of Wethersfield. This is about 5 miles compressed, which you would only know if you're from the area. So I do like to try and spread things out a bit. I like the negative space. I would have spread it out more if I had more space. But we all have our compromises that we need to make. It's my first Craftsman structure I ever built, such as it is. Little barn. Scenery in this area was done by Bill Schneider. So people teasing me that I don't know how to do scenery. I am learning. I'm getting better. But some of these early scenes were done by Bill, including this great hand-carved rock cut. Those of you that were tuning in thinking you were getting a presentation by Tony Custer on his Branch Lines book, I'm sorry. But this is the scene on the cover of his book, Sans Train. But you get to see it in the raw. Dan Munson took the cover photo for that book. And I could not figure out how to, I guess I can zoom in. I don't know why I couldn't do that last night. So I'm going to start doing that a little bit. Hopefully not getting too Blair Witch Project on you guys. But yeah, that actually works out pretty good. So we'll keep it a little tighter that way. As we head further south, this is Rocky Hill, freight station, passenger station. Passenger service was taken out on the Valley Line in the late 20s, early 30s. South of Middletown, late 20s. Middletown to Hartford stuck around until the early 30s for commuters going into Hartford. But this is Glastonbury Road, coming down to the Glastonbury Rocky Hill Ferry. And again, you've got model of the Rocky Hill Freight House, which was actually around until 2011 when the roof collapsed due to snow. And here is the prototype photo. And we've got the Rocky Hill Station. Looks more dilapidated because it's not being used by the railroad anymore. They're trying to sell it. So they're not really doing much to it. But the freight house has a new coat of paint because they're still using that. And here is the prototype photo. As I said, I am getting a little bit better with scenery, but I've had some great help. Jim Dufour has been over a couple times to help. But this is one of my more recent efforts, which looks very New Englandy with the exposed rock. I do like to do cool things with the track, weathering the ties, adding the weeds in between the rails. As we move south of Rocky Hill, you get to the dividend section of Rocky Hill and Hartford Rayon, which was the biggest shipper on the line. And they made parachutes during World War II. So it was one of the main reasons for the Valley Local to have stuff to ship out. One of the things that I do pride myself on is my photo backdrops and my transitions. So this is basically pretty much, unless I'm using a historic photo that I've colorized, I've taken all the photos myself and photoshopped them a little bit. I model early autumn, so late September, early October. So we'll continue south. You'll see there are many sections which are still under construction like this. Now this is kind of a cool scene coming up. We're coming into the town of Cromwell. So this is the prototype photo that I had to work with. And this is looking north on the Middlesex Turnpike. And you can see there's a diner there, Crossbucks town. Kind of looks like that today even. You go up the old Route 9, it's Silestine Highway in Rocky Hill. Diner's gone, but most of the rest of that scene still looks like that today. But the cool story about the diner, and apologies to folks that may have heard this story before, but it figures prominently in big band history. A guy named Hal McIntyre was a saxophonist for the Glenn Miller Band, and the first Glenn Miller Band was a flop. And so Glenn Miller got out of it. All the instruments were stored at Hal McIntyre's parents' farm in Cromwell, Connecticut. Hal wanted the band to get back together and kept pestering Glenn and pestering. One day he got a phone call. It was Glenn Miller on the phone. Said he was on his way from New York to Boston. He was down at the diner. Come down and have a cup of coffee. Well, as you might have guessed, this was I think. Spring of 37, 38, and Hal finally convinced Glenn to get the band back together, and that second Glenn Miller Band is what went on to all the fame. Chattanooga Choo Choo, In the Mood, String of Pearls, all those hits, and it all happened right there at that diner. You can see, hopefully, zoom in enough. I still have to do some transition with the road, but that is that prototype photo that you saw before. I colorized it and used it for the photo backdrop there in Cromwell. Now, a little bit of proto-freelance. I do not know that there was an Esso station in Cromwell at this location, but you know something? Don't really care. It's my layout. And I wanted to do a tribute to Jim Sacco. This is his City Classics gas station, and I couldn't think of a better place to put it, so it sits here. Again, another tribute to another dear friend. Way to keep memories alive on the layout. Cromwell Station. And we're heading south, continuing south on the Valley Line, coming into the Miller Street grade crossing area. Just some mock-ups right now. Here is the prototype photo that I'm working with. And yes, the curve is a bit sharper, but eventually I will hopefully be able to get that signature photo. Subject of a perspectives essay by Tony Custer when he was editor of RMC back in the May 1980 issue. And here we enter into Middletown Yard. A little bit of proto-freelance, the north end of the yard. I've got some buildings that I've purchased and also that I've made, but just to give the feel, just trying to convey some of the feel of the yard, give the local some local switching to do. Some of the engines here on the track. We've got New Haven Railroad 44 tonners. A little bit of a joke on my group that I love 44 tonners, and the dirty little secret is that the Valley Local never had 44 tonner, and as far as I know, there was never a 44 tonner station in Middletown, nor was there a Boston and Maine SW1 ever on the Valley Local, but I love SW1s. I won't bore everybody with the story about why this is here, but if you ask me, I'll point you to the blog post about it. It's actually kind of I think it's a fun story, but don't want to take up your whole evening. So as we're into Middletown, again, I'm trying to give the sense of the prototype. We've got the approach to the Aragoni Bridge, which is the bridge over the Connecticut River. I'm standing in the Connecticut River right now. This is Again, the Middlesex Turnpike coming, north is to the right, south is to the left. I'm standing in the middle of the river. I'm looking west. So this is where the airline and the Valley Line intersect. The airline is the line going right to left, and the airline, if I could model it, would be coming right at me on a swing bridge across the Connecticut River, but it truncates here in Middletown. And the airline local for my operating sessions is just a turn from Cedar Hill Yard staging to Middletown and return. But again, trying my best. I've got the church there in the background, tower, and prototype photo. It's really hard to try and go brick by brick, building by building, so I haven't. A lot of these buildings are either ones that I've purchased, inherited from others, included on the layout, just to convey a city of medium size. Again, the backdrop photos are mine. I'm still mocking these up. This is actually Washington Street on the prototype and on the model. And the city of Middletown is starting to come together again. It's just to convey the flavor of Middletown and using some really cool buildings. These were built by John Narek. This block here was built by Dave Messer. Some other, Bill McGuire, who will figure prominently with some structures a little bit later on. A lot of these lumberyard structures came off of his layout. This is Davis Lumber Company, south end of Middletown. Valley Local would go to Middletown every day from Hartford, and then on alternate days it would head further south of Middletown to go down to East Haddam to swap cars with the South End Local. And on the other days, it would head through Middletown Yard, out the north end of Middletown Yard, and go up the East Berlin branch, which we'll get to a little bit later. But there's Middletown Yard, and the East Berlin branches off the north end up there, but we'll get to that in a little bit. Apologies if I'm moving the phone too fast. Hopefully things aren't too herky-jerky. This is Sumner Creek, still in progress, south end of Middletown. And this building that's coming up, this large building, the prototype is the Pratt Reed Company in, I believe it's Deep River, Connecticut. Bill McGuire built this. He was a freelance modeler as far as his layout went, but he loved building prototype buildings. I'll mention a couple of his buildings. He was retiring his layout, moving to assisted living, and a bunch of friends and I rescued the buildings off of his layout. They were going to end up in a dumpster, which would have been a shame. So this is standing in for Middletown Meatpacking at the south end of the Valley Line. The Valley Line continues south, down along the back wall and underneath the city of Middletown, and then we'll pop out in the other room at Shalerville Bridge. But what we'll do is, since it's on the way, we will zip back down to the south end. Again, this is Old Saybrook and the Old Saybrook Y. During an operating session, we do have a lift out here that goes into place so you can get from the Y to the south end of Essex, Connecticut, which is coming up. So those of you that are, let's see, can I do this? Yeah, the Zoom seemed to Zoom before, but anyway. Those of you that are familiar with the Essex Steam Train will hopefully recognize this scene. Everything's still there today except for the coaling towers there on the right. The Dickinson Witch Hazel warehouse is there. You've got the white building over on the left is the distillery. You've got the station, former freight house, continues to be the freight house in my era, there in the center. This is Plains Road, otherwise known as Route 153. And then at the other end, you'll have Middlesex Turnpike. So this is Essex. C.P. Burdick Coal Company. The Valley Line was, a pretty standard branch line, bringing all the stuff of daily life to people: home heating, fuel, home heating coal, retail railroading. I mean, it was pretty much anything that you'd want came by rail at the time. But there were some interesting shippers, including Hartford Rayon, the Witch Hazel factory, made an astringent called witch hazel. It's kind of like an alcohol that would ship out. Little feed mill there in the background, just a mock-up at this point. But if you take Essex Steam Train today, this is where you would pick up the train. And we'll continue north. This is the distillery building made by Bill Schneider, and the water tank at the top here, made cast resin by John Sheridan. It's another. This was the first Bill McGuire special. Was the this building here, which I had to have. Photo backdrops still in progress here. Crossing the Middlesex Turnpike and heading north. We go through the meadow, through a little bit of a cut, and then we come into Old Deep River Road. Anybody that's rail fan the Essex Steam Train will be familiar with this area. It's on a curve, nice grade crossing, and nice rock cut. The locomotive heels over really nicely in this area. And then again, with the miracle of compression, I've compressed about 3 to 4 miles in this area right here that's in view. Coming into the south end of Deep River. Again, if you take the Essex Steam Train, Deep River is where you get onto the boat for the boat ride. So you're coming into south end of Deep River. You can see my my photo backdrop process, such as it is. Still mocking these up, but all those photos are taken from the location. So this is exactly what you would see at Deep River. Got to stitch them all together, take out the modern boats. It's a lace factory, not ever rail served, and on the prototype it would be out in the aisle, but this is another Bill McGuire prototype building that he built and located in the town where it is, just not in the exact location. And we got the station. We got the little feed store. And here's some prototype photos for reference. That's looking north. Little feed store there. So continuing north from Deep River, we go through Tate's Cut. And again, this is still work in progress. More compression you get from Deep River, and you come into the south end of East Haddam. So this is where the north end local and the south end locals meet to swap cars. There's a little, not really a yard, but there's the bulk track, which is what the New Haven called a team track. And then that center track is, basically where the locals swap cars. So that carload of pipe is destined, let's see, for Cromwell, according to the paperwork. Buildings in progress, but prototype photos. That's looking north, so that would be this view here. And that's Route 82, otherwise known as Bridge Street, which is where the car is crossing there and the grade crossing there. A little further north, I don't know how many of you guys are familiar with Oak Bluffs and Martha's Vineyard or Methodist campgrounds generally, but there's a little one here in East Haddam, Connecticut, still there today, Camp Bethel. So it's on a bluff overlooking the railroad and the Connecticut River, which is back there. Again, backdrops in process. And yes, this is where the dinner train runs up to. And these little cottages represent Camp Bethel. Again, still in progress. What is not so much in progress, except for the backdrop, is the Shalerville Bridge scene. So this is very overgrown with trees today, and the road is a little bit different bridge. But Shad Shack is still there today, and if you cleared out some trees, you'd still see this scene. It's a scenic, Valley Line was pretty scenic anyway, going along the Connecticut River, but this is a scenic highlight on the line as far as I'm concerned, with the high bridge here. And continuing north from here, you go underneath the city of Middletown on the layout and come into the south end of Middletown. And prototype photo. So that is the Valley Line. Let's see what time do we have here. Doing okay, I guess. One thing that isn't prototype at all is my rendition of the airline. So what I've got is two 2x8 modules, or two 2x8 sections of layout, 32 square feet totally. And all of these buildings were on a 4x8 layout that I inherited from a surrogate grandfather of mine, Chet Reck, who is that fellow right there, which you can't really see very well. That's a little bit better, I guess. That's the 4x8 that was in his basement in Vermont. Made its way from his basement to my garage in Milford, to my basement in Milford, to my basement here in Old Saybrook. Kind of the worse for wear, but salvaged all the buildings. He was much more into building buildings in operation. Stands to reason he had fiber ties and brass rail. But he did all of his modeling supplies through the Walthers catalog, 70s and 80s era, but you can see kind of the some of his handiwork. He retired to Vermont and didn't have a local hobby shop, so he did everything through mail order. So I took the 32 square feet of his 4x8, I reconstituted it onto two 2x8 sections, and if you can believe it, these two 2x8 sections were the only layout that I was going to have. They were joined into an L configuration. You can see the vestigial, the vestige of the old connection. Now there's a lift out that goes in front of the electrical panels to connect the two sections. And this is the other section. So again, a tribute to a friend, preserving his memory, preserving his buildings, but operationally, these two little sections, Somerset and Mill Hollow, operate as the airline branch operationally. So our airline local has these two towns to switch out and then continue on to Middletown through there and comes into the Middletown scene where I showed you before. There's one last little bit to show you, and that is the East Berlin branch, which I mentioned before. That comes off the north end of the Middletown yard. And on alternate days, the Valley Local doesn't go down all the way to East Haddam, but will go up the branch to East Berlin. Berlin branch had some brick factories. At the end of the branch was Stanley Chemical. They made paint. But and that was the main reason to keep the branch going, the bricks and the paint. But the branches off there and heads through the backdrop to go to the corner of the basement, otherwise known as East Berlin. So we are going to go there. Excuse the, hopefully you're not going to get motion sick. The production quality of this is top notch, huh, fellas? So this is where you come out. The Berlin branch comes through under the overpass there and crosses the Mattabesset River, which is per prototype. The station, still there today. It's used as a shed of sorts, kind of in rough shape. So that's prototype. And then these buildings, not prototype, but again, these are Bill McGuire specials. So I had to use them. They provide the traffic for East Berlin. I did do the concrete loading dock. And this switching out this one little turnout section was the subject of an RMC article back a little while ago. It's actually pretty immersive, if you can believe it. You come in here and you can lose yourself for about, 20, 30 minutes. And what we'll do is we will see if we can catch a train. There we go. And there we go. I guess that will conclude this showcase. Hopefully I didn't take up too much of the time, and hopefully you enjoyed the presentation. For more, you can go to the Valley Local Group. I got a website, I got a blog. Again, I wanted to thank Iron City N-Scale Group for giving me this opportunity to share my layout with you guys. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it wasn't too too jerky with the phone. And we got pretty consistent, over 30 people watching, so I really appreciate the time, appreciate your support, and appreciate the comments, which I'm very, very much looking forward to going through. I'll try and answer any questions that you dropped. And in the meantime, I hope you'll go over to the Valley Local Group at some point. If you're not a member already, join. And hopefully we'll be able to get you some more content. So without any further ado, we will end on what I think is probably my best effort as far as transition to the backdrop. And we'll just end it here. And thank you again, guys, and have a great rest of your evening. Take care.